Somebody cool off that AC, because Angel Caruso's here.
Hello and welcome back. Today I'm going to rank all of the James Bond villains, the main villain of each of the 25 Eon produced movies. I'm not doing the other 2 or 3 or 4 radio serials, I'm not doing that. I'm doing just the movies that count and matter. So, these are in no particular order at all, but I'm going to rate each of them and give a brief description of what they're about, their effectiveness against Bond. Dr. Julius No. Dr. Julius No is a brilliant scientist with an implied Napoleon complex. He is of Eurasian ancestry as a self-described unwanted child of a German missionary and a Chinese girl of a good family. He later became treasurer of the most powerful criminal society in China, in this case, the Tongs. He then escaped to America with 10 million of Tong gold bullion, using it to fund his subsequent criminal activities on Crab Key, Jamaica. He specialised in atomic energy, costing him both of his hands, which were replaced with crude metal bionic appendages. These new hands were strong enough to crush a metal figurine with ease, but were lacking in manual dexterity. He offered his skills and expertise to the Americans and Soviets, but was rejected. In revenge, No joined the criminal organisation Spectre. Unlike his literary counterpart, the cinematic Dr. No appears as a slim middle-aged Caucasian man with slightly epicanthal eyes, due to his Chinese heritage. Closely shaven and his dark hair always neatly combed back, the well-groomed doctor dressed himself in equally well-tailored, cream-coloured Nehru suits. I'd give Dr. No a 6 out of 10 because he is so bitter because of being rejected. You can tell that he is bitter about his accident, and I think that it plays a part in James Bond being able to beat him. He is arrogant. Like most of the villains, he's arrogant, but I'm going to give him a 6 out of 10, which I think that's pretty decent. Ernst Stavro Blofeld. Apparently at his wits' end over the failed plots and deaths of Dr. No, as well as Rosa Klebb and Emilio Largo, he had decided to operate his next plot personally. Blofeld oversees Spectre's scheme from a large rocket launch facility located inside a dormant volcano on an island in the Sea of Japan. On behalf of an unnamed third party implied to be Red China, Blofeld attempts to ignite a war between the United States and the Soviet Union by hijacking their respective space capsules, but James Bond, having faked his death, was sent to investigate. One of Blofeld's associates, Osato, recognises him and orders his assistant, Helga Brandt, to kill him, but the younger woman allows herself to have sex with 007 before doing her job and finally fails in her duty. Blofeld shows his cruelty and kills her for her failure by sending her into the piranha tank where she is brutally devoured alive. I like this version of Blofeld because he's sinister, he looks evil, he looks like he's some sort of Nazi crazy. He isn't as playful as Christoph Waltz or Telly Savalas. Like, this man has a mission, is bitter. You can see it by the way he talks to James Bond. There is no playfulness. He wants him gone, but he wants him to see. So for him, I'm going to give him a 6 out of 10. He needs to relax a little bit because he fails ultimately. So, 6 out of 10. They're not all going to be 6s and 5s. Aris Christatos. Aris Christatos comes from the island of Kefalonia, generally regarded as a hero for his bravery in World War II and the Greek Civil War, which the British government awarded him the King's Medal. Christatos was actually a double agent during both conflicts, though he appeared to be a respectable businessman in the years thereafter. He was in fact a heroin smuggler and a Soviet agent. At one point he worked with another smuggler, Milos Colombo, whom the latter remarked, "Then we were like brothers." However, as time passed, the two smugglers came to argue about what was to be smuggled. Colombo had smuggled commodities such as oil and almonds, as they were in high demand, and he believed ordinary people were hurt by the crushing tariffs of the EEC nations, and was later appalled when he discovered Christatos was involved in heroin and white slavery. He is in union with rogue Nazi supporters who have aided him in smuggling gold, drugs and other supplies out of Britain. In the film, he is hired by General Anatol Alexis Gogol to obtain the British device ATAC, Automatic Targeting Attack Communicator, a device which controls and coordinates Britain's nuclear submarine fleet. What can we say about Aris? Aris is weak. He is a liar. He's a conniver. And you can see that from what I've just read out. But really, he's just a liar. He lies about everything. And the reality is, he needs all of his muscle. He's nothing. He's no war hero. So I'm going to give him a 4 out of 10. Because he's ridiculous. And that's that. Max Zorin. Max Zorin was born in Dresden around the end of the Second World War, shortly after which Dresden became part of East Germany. He later moved to France and became a leading French businessman, operating on the microchip market. However, it is revealed later in the movie that he was the product of a National Socialist medical experimentation during World War II, authorised by Hitler, in which pregnant women were injected with massive quantities of steroids in an attempt to create super children. Most of the pregnancies failed. The few surviving babies grew to be extraordinarily intelligent, but also psychopathic. After the war, Hans Glaub, the German scientist who conducted the experiments, was spirited away by the Soviet Union in their version of Operation Paperclip, where he continued his experiments with steroids under the name Karl Mortner. Even though the Soviet Politburo had different concepts from the German Reichstag, they wanted Mortner to make steroids for athletes in order to showcase the USSR in the Olympics and similar sporting events. It's strongly implied that the young Zorin was raised by Mortner, who was one of Zorin's closest allies in the movie, and explicitly stated that Zorin was trained by and long affiliated with the KGB. Among other activities, Mortner organises a doping program for Zorin's thoroughbred racehorses, allowing Zorin to win horse races with ease by means of implanted microchips. Since the drugs are administered during the race, the racing authorities are on the lookout for drugs and painkillers, which is not what is administered into the horses. Rather, the microchips activate a natural steroid which gives the horse a boost and dissolves after a brief period in the bloodstream. Max Zorin, he might be my top villain. I think he's wonderful. He is psychotic. Because of that, he's frightening. He kills all of his workers in the mine with a smile on his face, and because of that, I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10. Max Zorin, 8 out of 10. Rosa Klebb. Colonel Klebb is a high-ranking member of the feared Russian counterintelligence agency SMERSH, where she serves as the supervisor of Department 2, Operations and Executions. She has a reputation for overseeing the interrogations of enemy agents in which, after exacting various methods of torture on the target, she speaks to them in a warm and motherly tone in an unusual and apparently effective method of extracting necessary information. Klebb is assigned to spearhead an operation to get revenge on James Bond for his involvement in the deaths of 2 other SMERSH operatives. Not a lot to be said about Rosa Klebb. She is as tough as a man. I think she's threatening, and I'm going to give her a 7, because From Russia with Love is great, and she is one of the aspects that make it great. I'm going to give her a 7 out of 10. Brad Whitaker. Brad Whitaker is an international black market arms dealer from the US. He is fascinated by war, but his actual military career is a failure. So he turns to arms dealing to organise his own personal military force. Expelled from West Point for cheating, he spends a short stint as a mercenary in the Belgian Congo before working with various criminal organisations to help finance his first arms deals. He loves military history, and it is implied that he wargames various historical conflicts using automated miniature figures and effects such as the battles of Agincourt, Waterloo and Gettysburg. In a conversation with Bond, Whitaker believes that Pickett's charge should have been made up Little Round Top, and that if Grant was in charge of the Union at Gettysburg, he would have crushed the Army of Northern Virginia, ending the war. Brad Whitaker is a joke shop villain, like such a tired, ridiculous... Listen to what he's saying. He plays with toys. He was rubbish in the army. I'm going to give him a 3 out of 10. He is no threat at all to James Bond. 3 out of 10.
So coming up in my next video, we have the next 6 James Bond movie villains rated out of 10 with a brief description of why.
And I'm just going to leave that on there.
Somebody turn on the AC, because it's Angel Caruso.